was already 37, learning 3D in 2019 when I was already 37 years old. At that time, I knew nothing about 3D, didn't know a single app, even a Photoshop. But I had a big desire to learn and create cool 3D characters and earn tons of money. A pretty normal desire, right? So I needed to start from something, I needed to learn. And here comes the first thing that I will tell you. Don't buy expensive courses.
This is my college degree. Wow, look at that. It says Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Digital Production. Isn't that cool? Isn't that pretty sweet? I've got a bachelor's degree.
Yes, you need to learn from professionals, but it doesn't mean that you need to buy very expensive courses. Anyways, it most likely won't guarantee that you will find a job after you complete the course. And here I will share with you my personal experience. So I decided to learn and picked a paid course from one of leading international online CG and animation school. It was very expensive, but I wanted to learn so much that I sold one car. I had two of them at those times and bought the course. It costed me $3,000 for the 6 months foundation course and another $9,000 for 1 year advanced 3D modeling course. I can't complain, I learned a lot from the foundation course and another $9,000 for the 6 months. It costed me $3,000 for the 6 months foundation course, $3,000 at those times. I learned so much that I sold one car. I including international online CG and animation school. It was very expensive, but I wanted to learn so much that I sold one car. I had two of them at those times and bought the course. It costed me $3,000 for the 6 months foundation course and another $9,000 for 1 year advanced 3D modeling course. I can't complain, I learned a lot from those courses, but honestly the quality of pre-recorded videos could be better for that price. The real value was once a week meetings with mentors who had pro experience in leading franchises from Disney, ILM and so on. But like I said, the meetings with mentors were only once a week for only 1 hour, and they were not one-on-one, they were in the group. So each student during whole week had only 15 to 20 minutes of attention from mentor. In the meetings, students had opportunity to ask questions about the industry and get feedback on their ongoing projects, as well as to get help when they are stuck at some point of the learning process. But I believe that was not enough for that price. So what I learned here was that the most valuable thing in learning was live mentorship with the professional. And next thing I learned that I could take mentorship from a professional apart from the school, and it would be way cheaper. For example, 1 hour of one-on-one mentorship could cost me starting from $35 American to 100 per 1 hour. Even if it would cost 100 for those 12k USD that I spent on those courses, I could get 120 hours of private one-on-one mentorship. That's really crazy value for that money, and I would get much more experience. And with that approach, I could build much stronger portfolio in the end and get more chances to be hired. Availability of jobs in 3D highly depend on your region where you live. So back to my story. I completed my education, and since I was one of the best students, I got offer from my school to become a teaching assistant to help mentors to educate newcomer students. And I worked there for 1.5 years, and I was paid well and I was happy. Until one day my school management told me that the educational project that I was working on will stop and my contract will not be prolonged and I need to find a new job. Luckily, right after finishing my contract with the school, I was able to land a remote job in an animation studio from Ukraine to become a 3D props artist for cartoon animation series for kids. I was getting money and industry experience and was happy again. But after 2 months, the studio management told me that their clients from Thailand didn't want to continue the production anymore and I lost my job again. So I lost my job twice in only 3 months. That was really stressful. I lived in Kazakhstan and tried to find a job desperately. There were almost no job offers in my country and I was applying for remote jobs in neighboring Russia, but with no luck. I wasn't offered even to make a test assignment and my applications were simply rejected without even mentioning the reason. And I didn't have a clue what to do. Big game companies from Europe and US didn't even consider my applications because I was from the other region and as I understood, they needed you to be present in their countries for tax reasons and also the time zone was important for them. Plus, I didn't have an outstanding strong portfolio and work experience in game studios, so my chances to be hired were slightly less than zero, although I knew that my skills were enough to work there. One day I finally found a 3D artist job announcement in my city and went to the interview. They liked my portfolio and were willing to hire me, but they didn't want to pay me decent money. To be exact, they didn't want to pay me per month, but offered paying per model. The price was less than $100 per one animation-ready character. And to make a proper character from scratch, I needed at least 1 month. Okay, 2 weeks if the character would be very simple. Anyways, that didn't make any sense at all, and I told them that I would rather work in Uber than working with them. So the second takeaway is the following. If you are located in the country where game and animation industry is poorly developed, that means that you will have very little chances to get a decent job. Of course, if you are very dedicated, not like me, ready to work hard days and nights, to build your studio level portfolio, have money to invest in your education and work with a pro mentor, then probably you have some chances. But I'm sharing with my personal story and my personal experience, which was not very successful. And one more takeaway from this story would be, finding a remote job in the global market is way harder than finding an offline job in the city where you live. The reason is simple, you will need to compete with the artists from the whole world instead of competing with people from your own city. Also, we need to consider that job market in the industry sucks right now for the last couple of years. And in the pandemics, the CG art courses were so popular that now there are still a lot of entry-level artists in the market desperately trying to find a job, and you need to compete with all of them. In the industry, nobody cares about your artistic preferences. That means if you are hired in the studio, you will have to make models that probably you won't like. They will probably not inspire you and you will end up working just for money, just like in any other job. Now I will come back to my story again. After I lost my job second time, I was getting some not very serious offers from time to time, and my attempts to find something so I would be able to support my family were unsuccessful. But after some time, the Ukraine studio came back to me and offered to take part in making another animation project. This time as a character artist, which was my dream. Of course, I agreed and they were paying more or less decent money for my region. So what I realized from that, working for a studio is basically the same office job just like any other job. They give you a model and deadline and you make it whether you like the process or not. You don't pick what you want to do. Same as in any other office job, you will get tired and you will be dependent financially from your employer. Standard 9 to 5 loop. If studio doesn't have projects, they will suspend your contract. If studio has load, they will call you back. That actually normal market relationships, only business and nothing personal. And probably this approach from studios is more relevant for those cases when someone is applying for the job remotely from other country and they have less responsibilities. So I'm again just sharing my own experience here. In order to get more chances to be hired by a desired studio, you need to comply your portfolio with the art style of the studio. For example, if you want to be hired in Blizzard, you need to make models in their style. Same with any other studio. You might be the best props artist in the world and your portfolio is full of realistic props, but if studio is specializing on stylized props, they won't even look at your application. Same is if studio want you to make props and your portfolio is full of characters. No matter how skilled you are, they most likely will ignore your application because they need a person who makes props. So the takeaway is, if you want to get hired by a specific game studio, pick one that making models in the style that you like. For example, if you like making stylized characters, pick the studio that making stylized games and build your portfolio according to their style and then apply. If you want to work in the studio, learn AI tools and incorporate them in your workflow. We are living in the times when AI is growing, and those who won't be able to adapt will be wiped out from the job market. Today, more and more studios are trying to optimize their workflow with AI tools in order to be able to make their production pipeline working fast. Even if they don't want to use AI tools, they just don't have other choice. If the other studios will be making games twice quicker and cheaper using AI, those who will stick to the old pipelines will simply lose the game. So studios right now are trying to survive in the global market and engaging in the rat race and competition. They want to make products quicker and cheaper in order to stay afloat. And learning AI tools doesn't mean that now being a 3D artist you don't have to learn anatomy, proportions, lighting, as well as retopology, UV mapping and texturing. It means that you still need to learn everything and think how to incorporate AI tools in your workflow to be more efficient. To be honest, this rat race can be very stressful, and we artists pick our artistic path not to be a part of the stressful game when you, instead of enjoying the process of creation and refining your art, constantly thinking how to learn new AI tools to stay in trend and stay in demand. And at the same time, you need to think how to comply to the studio preferences. I think it's ugly and miserable. I mean, if you truly like constantly learning those new AI tools that are introduced daily, that is not a problem. Then you can just enjoy your life. But if you don't, then probably you need to think what to do. And now comes the last tip and most important one. In nowadays, social media for artists is a key. The reason is simple. However cool artist you are, if nobody knows you and have never seen your works, then nobody will offer you a job and you will live in poverty like some well-known artists of the past like Van Gogh. Sometimes I think if he would have access to the modern social media, maybe he would have completely different life. So I distracted again, coming back to my experience. I was one who didn't like to be dependent on employer due to all the reasons I listed above. And I understood that I need to develop my social media in order to build the audience and to be able to propose my own products that people would probably need and like. But I was very bad in social media. I tried Instagram, I was uploading content for years and had no luck. Obviously, I was making something wrong, and I still don't understand what. I tried also TikTok and it didn't work for me too. And finally I started my YouTube channel. At the beginning everything was going well and my very small channel started to slowly growing, but at some point it just stopped. There was no visibility at all and I was very disappointed, and I stopped posting content for almost 1 year. But then I decided to give it one more try before stopping completely and made one video about how to sculpt a head, and it finally worked. I started creating content and streaming and found out that you guys are liking what I do, and it gave me motivation and hope that now I can not only make what I truly love, sculpt characters, but also share my knowledge with you and maybe even will be able to make living out of that. And also become independent from the employers, and that was always my real goal. So since I mentioned my products that I do, I just wanted to mention that I make educational content about sculpting in Blender. If you are my long-time subscriber, you probably already know that. But if you are watching me for the first time, I do sculpting courses in Blender for different level artists, and since I have huge experience of learning myself and teaching, I know how hard it is to start your way in 3D. And that's why in my courses I try to explain not only what I do, but most importantly why I do it. So you will get the strong foundation and understanding of sculpting process in Blender. You can check all the links for my courses and stuff in the description. I have made a bunch of them and I specialize mainly in making stylized female characters. My main approach is to break and simplify shapes, and I find that this approach is very effective for beginners and intermediate level artists to understand the basics of the anatomy, and it normally gives quick results. Also, if you are new to my channel, I have tons of free contents. I do also live streaming and everything is free. You can check all the links in the description. So to recap, I want to repeat the key takeaways from these videos. First, think twice before buying expensive courses. Instead, consider finding an experienced artist who will agree to give you private mentorships. That will be much cheaper and way more effective. Second, jobs availability highly depend on your region. In case there are no 3D studios in your place, it will be very hard to find a remote job for you, and maybe it will make sense considering to move to other country. Third, in the studios nobody cares about what you like. You will be making what the studio needs. Fourth, if you were born in the right place and still want to work in the studio, find one and build your portfolio according to their style. Fifth, if you want to work in the studio, start incorporating AI tools in your workflow to be more efficient and quick. Studios love when you are quick and productive. And the last one for this video, prioritize social media. That is very important. The more people will learn about you, the more opportunities you will have to grow as an artist. So yeah guys, I try to share my own experience and to be as honest as possible with you. And I hope this video was useful to you. If yes, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe if you want some more stories from my life and some more experience tips from me. And if you are agree or disagree with what I have been said, or if you have simply other story that you want to share, feel free to drop your comments in the section below the video. And it's always interesting to learn what you guys think. And also, if you are